I found out my wife was cheating on me the same morning she asked me to hold her hand and pray with her, and that was the exact moment my life split in half. I am not writing this for revenge or sympathy. I am writing this because I still cannot breathe right, and if I do not get this out, I feel like I might explode quietly in my own kitchen. I am a normal guy, mid-30s, decent. Job, small house, 2 cars, 1 dog, and a marriage I thought was boring in the best way possible. Boring meant safe. Boring meant predictable. Boring meant forever. My wife Emily and I had been married for 11 years, together for 14 high school sweethearts, the kind people roll their eyes at because it sounds fake. We grew up together. We struggled together. We built everything from nothing together. Or at least, that is what I thought. The morning it started, I woke up before my alarm, which never happens, and I just lay there listening to her breathe. Next to me, that slow, familiar sound that used to calm me. But that morning it felt wrong, like I was lying next to a stranger wearing my wife's skin. I did not know why yet, I just knew something was off. Emily rolled over and put her hand on my chest and smiled, that soft smile she used when she wanted something. She said, "Can we pray together before work? I feel like we need it." We are not super religious, but we do pray sometimes, especially when life gets heavy. I said sure, because saying no felt impossible. She held my hand tightly, her palm sweaty, her grip almost desperate. She prayed for strength. She prayed for forgiveness. She prayed for our marriage. That last part made my stomach drop. I asked forgiveness for what, and she squeezed my hand harder and said, "Just life stuff, stress, you know." I did not push. I should have. After she left for work, I made coffee and sat at the table staring at nothing, feeling like I was forgetting something important. Then my phone buzzed. It was not a text. It was a notification from an app I did not recognize. The app name was one word, hidden. I almost ignored it, but something in my chest started burning. I opened it. The app asked for a I did not know the password, but I did know my wife. I tried her birthday. Wrong. I tried our anniversary. Wrong. I tried our old house number from when we first moved in together. The app opened. What I saw first was not pictures or messages. It was a calendar. Marked dates. Repeated times. Locations. Hotels. Lunch hours. Late meetings. My hands started shaking. I clicked messages. The first message at the top was from a name saved as Mike Work. The preview line said, "Last night was incredible. I cannot stop thinking about you." I sat there frozen, my coffee going cold, my dog whining at my feet because I had dropped my mug without realizing it. I opened the thread. I will not quote everything because it still feels like swallowing glass. But it was clear, painfully clear. This was not a mistake. This was not one time. This was a relationship. Months long, carefully hidden, emotionally intimate. She told him things she never told me. She called him her safe place. She said she felt alive with him. I scrolled back further and found pictures. Not explicit, but intimate. Her smile, her eyes, the way she looked at him. A look I had not seen in years. I vomited in the sink. I do not remember sitting down, but suddenly I was on the kitchen floor crying like a child, my chest making sounds I did not know were possible. I wanted to wake up. I wanted this to be a dream. I wanted my boring, safe marriage back. Then I saw something that made everything worse. A voice message. I pressed play. Her voice soft, laughing. She said, "I love you. I wish I could wake up next to you every day." I sat there listening to my wife say she loved another man in the house I paid for with the wedding ring I put on her finger. I thought about all the times she said she was working late. All the times she was too tired. All the times she turned away from me in bed. I thought about how I blamed myself. I closed the app and just sat there for a long time. I did not cry anymore. I felt empty. At work I could not focus. I just stared at my screen. While my brain played every memory of our relationship like it was being rewritten. Every laugh. Every fight. Every "I love you." I left early saying I felt sick, which was true in a way no one could see. I drove past one of the hotels listed in the app without meaning to. My hands turned the wheel on their own. I sat in the parking lot watching people come and go, wondering if she was ever here at the same time as me without me knowing. When Emily came home that night, she kissed my cheek and asked what was for dinner. I almost laughed. I said nothing. I cooked. I listened. I watched her like a stranger. She talked about work. She complained about traffic. She asked if I was okay. I said I was just tired. She reached across the table and took my hand. Her touch felt foreign. She said, "I love you." I said it back because I did not know how to stop saying it. That night, I did not sleep. I watched the ceiling and listened to her breathe, and wondered how someone could be right next to you and so far away at the same time. Around 3 in the morning, her phone lit up. She did not wake up. I looked at the screen. A text preview. "I miss you already." I reached over, unlocked her phone, and what I saw next was something I was not prepared for. Because the messages from Mike were not the only ones. And in that moment I realized my marriage was not just cracking. It was already gone. I thought I had already seen the worst until I scrolled further and realized Mike was not the beginning and not even close. There were other names, different threads, different patterns. Some were saved as coworkers. Some were saved as women. Some were just emojis. Each one was a different version of my wife. Playful, broken, flirty, desperate. I sat there in the dark with her phone in my hand while she slept peacefully beside me, and I felt like I was standing over a grave that had my name on it. One thread was older than the rest. It started 2 years ago. 2 years. That was around the time I thought we were just going through a rough patch. That was when she started saying she needed space. That was when she stopped looking me in the eyes when we talked. I remember asking her back then if there was someone else. She laughed. She hugged me. She told me I was being insecure. I believed her. The messages told a different story. This man was married to kids, mortgage, family vacations. They talked about sneaking away. They talked about how hard it was to pretend. They talked about how guilty they felt. And then they talked about doing it again. I scrolled and scrolled until my head felt like it was going to split. I saw a message from her that made me stop breathing. She said I wish I had never married him. I was him. I put the phone down slowly and got out of bed. I went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked older than I remembered, smaller, tired. I thought about all the ways I had failed her, and then I thought about all the ways she had failed me. The sun was just starting to come up and I knew I could not pretend anymore. But I also knew I was not ready to confront her. Not yet. I needed to understand. I needed to know everything. Over the next few days, I became someone I did not recognize. I memorized her schedule. I watched her location. I listened more than I talked. She was careful, but not careful enough. I found emails, deleted photos in a cloud account, hotel receipts hidden in work expense reports. She was not just cheating, she was managing a double life. And the scariest part was how normal she acted at home. She still made dinner. She still asked about my day. She still prayed with me. One night she asked if we could start trying for a baby again. I felt my heart crack in a new way. I asked her why she wanted that. She said she wanted to feel close to me again. I almost screamed. Instead, I asked her if she was happy. She hesitated. Just for a second. Then she smiled and said, "Of course I am." That lie hurt more than anything else. A few days later, I took a day off work without telling her. I followed her. I am not proud of it, but I needed to see it with my own eyes. She told me she had a late meeting. She drove to a cafe across town, sat there for 10 minutes, checked her phone. Then a man walked in. He was taller than me, more confident. He hugged her like he had done it 1,000 times. They sat close. To close, she touched his arm when she laughed. She leaned in when he spoke. That was my wife, but she was not acting like my wife. They left together. I did not follow them. I could not. I sat in my car and cried so hard I thought someone would call the police. When I got home, she was already there. She kissed me. She smelled like his cologne. I asked how her meeting went. She said it was exhausting. That night I slept on the couch. She did not ask why. The distance between us became a third person in the house. She started getting irritated easily, snapping at me, accusing me of being cold. I almost told her the truth so many times, but something inside me wanted her to say it first. Then one evening everything changed. Her phone buzzed while she was in the shower. I looked at the screen. The name was not saved, just a number. The message said, "I told my wife about us. She wants to talk to you." My blood ran cold. I opened the thread. This man was not just a lover. He was a time bomb. He was threatening to expose everything. There were messages from Emily begging him to stop, promising to fix things, promising to leave me. Leave me. I sat there realizing my marriage was not just ending. It was about to explode in a way I could not control. The shower turned off. I put the phone down. She walked out smiling, wrapped in a towel. She asked why I looked pale. I opened my mouth to speak, and then the doorbell rang. And when I opened the door and saw who was standing there, I knew there was no way back. The man standing on my porch was not angry or loud or dramatic. He looked calm, polite, almost nervous, like someone about to apologize for existing. He said my name like he had practiced it. I stood there barefoot holding the door while my wife stood behind me in a towel, slowly realizing the world she built was collapsing. She whispered, "Oh my God." That was when I knew she knew him. He introduced himself and said he was sorry to show up unannounced, but things had gotten complicated. Complicated. That word almost made me laugh. I asked Emily if she knew him. She did not answer. She just stared at the floor like a child caught lying. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. The man said his wife found messages, screenshots, pictures. He said she was devastated. He said she wanted the truth. He said she wanted to talk to me. I asked how long. He hesitated, then said almost a year. A year? He said he did not mean for it to go this far. He said he fell in love. He said Emily promised him things. I asked what things. He said she told him she was trapped. She told him I was controlling. She told him I did not love her anymore. That was new. I went back inside. Emily was crying, sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. I asked her if it was true. She nodded. I asked if she loved him. She did not answer. That silence was louder than any confession. I told the man to leave. He looked relieved and terrified at the same time. After he left, I sat across from Emily and finally asked the question I had been carrying in my chest for years. Why? She said she felt invisible. She said she felt lonely. She said she needed to feel wanted. I asked if she ever planned to tell me. She said she did not know. I asked if she would have stopped. She started crying harder. That was also an answer. The next few days were a blur. She slept in the guest room. I took off work. We barely spoke. Her phone never stopped buzzing. One night I asked her to hand it to me. She hesitated. I said if there was any chance of us surviving, I needed full truth. She gave it to me. What I found was worse than I expected. There were messages about money, about leaving, about plans. She had told him she would leave me after the holidays, after we paid off some debt, after things were easier. She had a timeline. I asked her if she was ever going to tell me. She said she was waiting for the right time. I asked if the right time was after I spent another year loving her. She could not look at me. Then I found something that changed everything. A draft email, addressed to a lawyer. She had written about divorce, about splitting assets, about me. She called me emotionally absent. She said she had been carrying the marriage alone. I felt like I was reading about a stranger. That night I packed a bag. She asked where I was going. I said I needed space. She asked if I was leaving her. I said I did not know. I stayed at my brother's house. He did not ask questions. He just let me sleep. A week later, Emily asked to talk. We met at a park. Neutral ground. She looked smaller, older. She said she ended things with him. I asked why. She said because she realized she could lose me. That hurt more than if she had said she loved me. She asked if we could go to counseling. I asked if she was sorry or just scared. She said both. Then she told me something I was not ready to hear. She said she was not the only one. I asked what she meant. She said she found something on my computer months ago. An email, an old chat. From before we were married. She said she thought I had cheated too. I told her that was before we were together. Before we were us. She said it still hurt. That was when I realized we were living in two different realities. She was justifying her choices. I was drowning in them. A few days after that, I got a message from a number I did not recognize. It was a woman. She said she was the wife of another man Emily had been seeing. She said there were more. She said there were names I had not heard yet. She asked if I wanted to know everything. I stared at my phone for a long time. Because once you know everything, there is no way to unknow it. And in that moment I had to decide whether I wanted truth or whether I wanted whatever pieces of peace I had left. I typed back one word. Yes. And as soon as I sent it, I felt something inside me break that I am not sure will ever heal. She called me the next morning, her voice calm to calm like she had already cried everything out and had nothing left. She said her name and then said she was sorry before I could even respond. She said, I know this is going to hurt, but you deserve to know. We met at a coffee shop neither of us had ever been to before, like neutral ground made it less real. She looked just like me. Tired. Hollow. Holding a cup, she was not drinking. She told me her husband worked with Emily. Different department. Same building. She said it started as flirting. Lunches. Long walks. Then hotels. She slid her phone across the table. I did not want to touch it. But I did. What I saw made everything from before look like a warm-up. There were group messages. Emily. To men. One woman. They joked. They planned. They covered for each other. This was not just cheating. This was a network. Emily was not lost. She was organized. They shared schedules. Used code words. Helped each other lie. I felt stupid in a way I cannot describe. Not weak. Not angry. Just small. The woman told me she found a folder. Photos. Videos. She did not make me look at those. She said Emily was the one who introduced her husband to the idea. She said Emily made it sound normal, like everyone was doing it. I asked how long. She said almost 3 years. 3 years. That was when we bought the dog. That was when we renewed our vows, quietly at home. That was when Emily cried and said she was so lucky to have me. I excused myself and threw up in the bathroom. When I got home, I sat alone in the dark for hours. Emily texted asking if we could talk. I did not respond. Instead, I opened our photo albums. Digital and physical. I looked for cracks, signs, red flags. They were everywhere once I knew how to look. Trips she took alone, smiles that did not reach her eyes, messages deleted but not forgotten. That night she came over anyway. She knocked like a stranger. I let her in. She started talking before I could say anything, apologizing, explaining, crying. She said it was not about me. She said she was broken. She said she did not know why she did it. I asked her about the others. Her face changed. She said, who told you? That was all I needed. I asked how many. She whispered, I do not know. I asked if anyone used protection. She hesitated. That pause was another knife. I asked if she loved any of them. She said she thought she did. Thought? I asked if she ever loved me. She looked at me and said, I do. Present tense. Too late. I told her about the woman. About the network. She sat down like her legs gave out. She said it was not like that. She said it got out of control. She said she felt addicted. I asked if she ever planned to stop. She said she was trying. Trying. That word made me stand up. I told her to leave. She begged. She grabbed my arm. She said she would do anything. Anything except not do it in the first place. After she left, I did something I never thought I would. I called a lawyer. Not to file, just to ask. The man on the phone was calm, professional. He asked how long we were married. If there were kids. If there were assets. Each question felt like another nail. Then he asked if there was infidelity. I said yes. He said that changes things. After I hung up, I sat there realizing my life was about to be reduced to paperwork. A few days later, I went back to the house to get more clothes. Emily was not there. The silence was loud. In the closet, I found something I had never seen. A small locked box. I did not know why, but I knew it was important. I took it with me. At my brother's house, I forced it open. Inside were letters, printed emails, photos, not recent, old, from before we were married. Emily writing to someone saying she was scared to marry me, saying she felt like she was settling, saying she wondered what else was out there. I sat there realizing I had been the safe choice, the stable choice, the backup plan, and she had been cheating on me even before the vows. That night she texted me one sentence. I am pregnant. I stared at the screen. My heart stopped, then raised, then sank. I asked how far along. She said 6 weeks. 6 weeks. I did the math. The timeline did not add up. I asked whose it was. She did not answer. That silence was the loudest thing I had ever heard. I put the phone down and realized the story was no longer just about betrayal. It was about a life that might not be mine, and a decision that would define who I was going to become. Because the next morning she left me a voicemail, and what she said in that message made me question whether walking away was even an option anymore. I listened to the voicemail 3 times before I could even understand the words. Her voice was shaking, not crying, just empty. She said, I need you to know something before you decide anything. She said I took a test at the doctor. She said they did blood work. She said the baby might be yours. Might? That word has a way of destroying everything it touches. She said the timing was confusing. She said there was overlap. She said she was willing to do a test. Willing. Like this was a favor. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall and let my phone fall out of my hand. I thought about every time she touched me in the last 2 months. Every time she pulled away. Every time she said she was tired. I thought about how careful she had been. How strategic. Nothing about this was an accident. I did not call her back. Instead, I drove. I did not know where I was going. I just needed movement. Something to prove I was still alive. I ended up in the parking lot of the church where we got married. It was locked. Empty. I sat there and remembered her walking down the aisle. Her smile. Her hands shaking. I remembered thinking I had one. That night I finally texted her. I said we need to talk in person, and you need to tell me everything. She responded immediately. She said of course. She said she would do anything. We met at the house. Our house. She looked different. Softer. Scared? She put a hand on her stomach without realizing it. That broke something in me. I asked her to sit. I asked her to be honest. I asked her to stop crying and just answer. I asked how many men there could be. She named 3, then paused, then said maybe 4. I asked about protection. She said not always. I closed my eyes. I asked why she did not use birth control. She said she did. She said she missed pills sometimes. Sometimes. I asked if any of them knew she was trying to save her marriage. She said no. I asked if any of them thought the baby might be theirs. She said yes. That was when I lost my temper. I did not yell. I did not scream. I just stood up and told her she had turned my life into a lottery I never agreed to enter. She fell apart then, sobbing, saying she was sick, saying she needed help. She said she loved me. She said she always came back to me. Back, like I was a place, not a person. I asked her if she would keep the baby no matter what. She said she did not know. I asked if she would terminate if it was not mine. She looked at me like I had slapped her. She said I could not ask that. I said I did not ask for any of this. We sat in silence. Then she said something that made my chest go cold. She said, if the baby is yours, would you stay? I looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time I saw someone who had been using love like a safety net. I told her I did not know. That answer destroyed her. A week later we got the test scheduled. Those days were torture. She texted me updates. Doctor visits. Symptoms. I did not respond. I felt like if I let myself care I would drown. The night before the results came in, I had a dream. I was holding a baby. But every time I looked at its face, it changed. Sometimes it looked like me. Sometimes it looked like a stranger. I woke up crying. The call came at noon. She asked if I wanted to hear it now or later. I said now. There was a pause. Then she said, it is yours. The world did not explode. The sky did not fall. Everything just went quiet. I felt relief, then panic, then something worse, responsibility. She started crying, saying this was a sign, saying we could start over, saying this baby was hope, hope. I thought about raising a child with a woman I did not trust. I thought about teaching a son or daughter what love looked like. I thought about becoming my father, staying when he should have left. I told her I needed time. She begged me not to walk away. She said the baby needed me. Needed. That word followed me for days. Because the truth was, I already loved that child, and loving it might mean destroying myself. 2 days later, I found something else. A message on her old tablet she forgot to log out of. Sent after the test. She told one of the men the baby was probably mine, but she was not sure she wanted to stay with me. I sat there realizing even now, even with everything on the line, she was still keeping doors open. That was when I understood. This was not about forgiveness, or healing, or family. This was about whether I was willing to disappear so someone else could feel whole. And as I stared at that message, I knew the next choice I made would change, not just my life, but a child's life, forever. The morning I decided what to do, I did not feel brave or strong. I felt tired in a way sleep cannot fix. I sat on the edge of the bed at my brother's house watching sunlight crawl across the floor, and I thought about how every big moment in life is quiet when it finally arrives. No music. No signs. Just a choice. I thought about Emily. About the girl I met when we were teenagers. About the woman who became my wife. About the stranger who broke me. I thought about the baby. About tiny hands. About first words. About teaching someone what love is supposed to look like. And I thought about myself. About the man who stayed quiet too long. About the man who thought loyalty meant endurance. I drove to the house one last time. She was already there, sitting at the table with both hands wrapped around a mug she was not drinking. She looked up when I walked in, and I could see hope try to rise in her eyes. That hurt more than anything. I sat down across from her and did not touch her. I told her I read the message. The one where she said she was not sure she wanted to stay with me. She closed her eyes. She said she was confused. She said she was scared. She said she did not mean it. I told her that was the problem. I told her I did not believe her words anymore. Not the good ones. Not the bad ones. I told her trust does not break all at once. It breaks in layers. And we were already at the bottom. She asked if I was leaving. I said yes. She started crying harder than I had ever seen. Not loud, just desperate. She said, "What about the baby?" I took a breath that felt like fire in my chest. I told her I would be there for the child. I told her I would support. I told her I would love. But I would not stay married to someone I was afraid to turn my back on. She asked how I could do that. How I could walk away from our family. I told her our family ended when she stopped protecting it. That was when something in her changed. She got quiet. Then angry. She said, "So you get to be free, and I get to be alone." I told her she was never alone. She always had options. I just refused to be one of them anymore. I packed the rest of my things. Photos, clothing, small pieces of a life that no longer fit. She followed me from room to room, apologizing, blaming, begging. I did not respond. At the door, she asked one last time. She said, "If you walk out now, you cannot come back." I looked at her and realized that door had closed a long time ago. I left. The divorce was not dramatic. Just paper, signatures, waiting. Friends took sides. Some quietly, some loudly. Her family was cold. Mine was confused. I did not tell everyone the whole truth. Not to protect her, but to protect myself. Emily moved out of state to be near her mother. She said she needed support. I believed that. I went to appointments. I helped with bills. I showed up. Holding the baby for the first time changed me. Not in a magical way. In a terrifying one. I loved that child instantly. Completely. And I hated that love, because it tied me forever to a woman I did not trust. Co-parenting was awkward. Then hard. Then civil. She tried sometimes. Hints. Memories. What ifs. I never took the bait. Years passed. I built a new routine. A smaller life. But an honest one. I learned that peace is not loud. It is boring. And that is a gift. One day my child asked why mommy and daddy do not live together. I told them the truth in a way they could carry. I said sometimes adults make choices that hurt other people. And the right thing is to stop hurting, even if it means leaving. They nodded like it made sense. Maybe it did. Emily and I speak now only about schedules. School. Doctor visits. Nothing else. Sometimes she looks at me like she is trying to remember who we used to be. I do not look back. Because loving someone does not mean erasing yourself. And staying for a child does not mean teaching them to accept betrayal. Here is what still keeps me up at night. Was I right to leave even though the baby was mine? Or did I choose my own healing over a family that could have been fixed? If you were me, would you have stayed? Or would you have walked away too?